Very recently, I got into a game called Ghost of Tsushima. It's a very fun game. It's a Japanese-filled story game, and one thing I really don't like about the game is that it forces me to pay attention to the narrative. Now, I hate when games do this. I have played Uncharted, I have played The Last of Us, and I despise those games because they're very heavily story-based games. Same with Red Dead Redemption 2. Games that primarily rely on you to pay attention to the main core story. I don't like story games. Why don't I like story games? Well, I don't want to pay $60 for an entire narrative. I really don't. I want to play for the gameplay. I have no issue with story games. As a matter of fact, the Tales from the Borderlands is one of my favorite just story games of all time. Games that have a compelling narrative are very fun. I like games that have a very compelling narrative that ties deeply into the story and the gameplay of certain games. Ashura's Wrath being a certain example of this gameplay is the story and it forces you to do the gameplay with QTEs, which is pretty fun. Some small events in Uncharted do that, but it forces you too deeply to pay attention to the story, and Ghost of Tsushima has unskippable cutscenes, so it doesn't give you the option of not being invested in the story. At least with other games, they allow you to not have it forced upon you. You can have the option of staying away from these story games. That's my issue, I think. I want the choice of being able to pick when I need to be involved in the story. If I could do that, I'd love that. Now, that is not to say that I despise every single story game. For instance, Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne or Shin Megami Tensei Persona, the Persona games, very heavily story-based because it relies on you to pay attention to the narrative. However, in those games, there is a fast-forward option where I can skip through all that just in case I get tired of hearing the same anime cringy BS dialogue, which is nice. However, when a game forces me to pay attention and with unskippable cutscenes, that is when I become incredibly agitated. You don't have to do that. Your game doesn't have to rely on these nonsensical things. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be this way. I promise you it doesn't. It doesn't have to be this way. We can do something different. We can do something irregular. We can do something that subverts all those expectations. We can just let you skip the cutscenes. I am growing sick and tired of games that are relying so heavily on the narrative that now they are pushing the they are pushing the gameplay down. That is an issue for me. I grew up playing video games that took me out of the story. What's the story of Super Mario? Your princess is in another castle, beat Bowser, boom. But the gameplay is just a platformer. Pretty nice. Crash Bandicoot, don't even know who the characters are in Crash Bandicoot, but I've beaten the game hundreds of times. I can't name you a single character besides Crash Bandicoot. I really can't, because I don't care about the story. Why don't I care about the story? Well, I'll tell you one thing that's really fun about me. I'm an idiot. I'm stupid. My brain is the size of a peanut. As a matter of fact, I can't even tie my shoes. I don't know the alphabet without singing it, and I can't tell you the position of each of the numbers. I can't, because I'm dumb. I can't do basic math without having to write it down. I can't do basic multiplication that way either. I'm stupid. I need a calculator. I'm dumb. I like being entertained outside of a story. If I'm watching a story, I'd like to watch a show. Breaking Bad is one of my favorites. The narrative is cohesive. I love it. Game of Thrones is pretty good. I like that. But I'm not paying for a movie, which is The Last of Us, which is basically paying for a movie, unless I'm playing a Telltale game. Telltale Games, you're paying for a movie. You know what you're getting with that experience. Borderlands 2. The story of Borderlands 2 was ingrained in the gameplay. While you played the game, Handsome Jack would insult you and things of that variety. That's probably the best example I could give of a game that has a great story, forces me to listen to the story without ignoring the gameplay because the gameplay came first. I don't like games that have story first. Story games agitate me. There are certain games that don't care about the gameplay that deeply and just want to get the story out. For instance, Poppy Playtime. Poppy Playtime is an indie analog horror. I apologize. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I love it. It's a beautiful game. First chapter of Poppy Playtime. Barely cared about the story, a few puzzles. I don't even like puzzle games, but I love the narrative that they're pushing. I like the scary part of that. I like it a little bit. It's really cool. I like the designs of the lovable creatures being subverted. Chapter 2, not even that scary of a chapter, but I do enjoy Mommy Longlegs and how the lore of that went behind there. Chapter 3, Catnap. Genuinely horrifying. Super cool. I liked all of that. All those aspects, all those little things, that was pretty fun. However, if you are making a story game, and if any developer comes across this video If you force me to listen to your story, you're not making a story-driven game, I don't like you. Good games that are story games, Undertale. Great story game. Borderlands 2, Undertale. 2 great games, story-wise. Because the narrative is the key point of those games. That's the key point of both of those games. The narrative. Gameplay is fun, but the narrative isn't. That's the important part. Ashura's Wrath is a great game that encapsulates gameplay and story, but a lot of people don't like that high crazy nonsense anime jibble garble. That's fun. Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't even care about the story. It's straight action. Super Smash Brothers barely cares about story, mostly just action. Tekken is, you can skip cutscenes in Tekken, which is great. You can skip cutscenes in Tekken. I am sick of story games forcing me to be a part of their narrative. It pisses me off. That's all I have to say, realistically. Let me know how you feel about story games down in the comment section below. I have been Setos. If you guys want to follow me and things of that variety, you can subscribe or whatever. I just rant every day. Every day I just release a rant. I just want this to be like a diary, basically. Bye.